It was a bright Tuesday morning in Maple Ridge, Ohio, one of those peaceful small towns where everyone knew everyone, and nothing bad was ever supposed to happen. Emily Carter, a single mother of two, dropped off her 4-year-old twins, Aiden and Lily, at Little Steps Daycare. The building sat on the corner of Willow Street, painted in faded pastel colors, with drawings taped to the windows and the smell of crayons and apple juice in the air. The twins waved goodbye, clutching their stuffed animals as Emily smiled and left for work, unaware that it would be the last time she'd ever see them the same way again. Around 11 a.m., the daycare seemed perfectly normal. Kids laughing, teachers singing, cartoons playing quietly in the background. Then, according to staff, a brief power flicker hit the building. The lights dimmed for just a few seconds. The security cameras glitched, and the sound of static echoed through the baby monitor system. When everything came back on, Aiden and Lily were nowhere to be found. Their crayons were still on the table, their juice boxes unopened, and their tiny shoes sat neatly under the cubbies, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. When Emily returned at 4 p.m. to pick them up, she was greeted by confused looks and forced smiles from the daycare staff. They assumed she'd already come for them earlier because, according to one witness, the twins were seen leaving with their mother around noon. But the security footage showed no one leaving. Not Aiden, not Lily, not even a shadow near the exit. That was when panic set in. Police were called, the building was sealed off, and by nightfall, a search party of over 200 people combed through every yard, every shed, and every nearby forest path. But there was no sign of the twins, just silence. And that strange glitch on the security feed that froze precisely at 11:23 a.m., days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. But investigators still had nothing solid. No footprints, no ransom note, not even a credible sighting. The entire case seemed to be unraveling into thin air. Detectives interviewed every teacher, janitor, and parent connected to Little Steps Daycare. Everyone told the same story. The twins were cheerful that morning, perfectly fine during snack time, and then gone. The FBI combed through the daycare's backyard, a small fenced play area that backed into a wooded patch of land. Search dogs picked up a scent that stopped abruptly by the gate, as if someone or something had lifted the children off the ground and disappeared. The unsettling part, the lock on the gate wasn't broken. It was still latched from the inside. Then came the first real clue, or what looked like one. A local reported seeing a white utility van parked near the daycare around the time of the disappearance. Investigators tracked down dozens of similar vehicles, but each lead went cold. The daycare's garbage bin was emptied and searched. Inside, detectives found a torn piece of a teddy bear's ear belonging to Lily's favorite toy, Mr. Buttons. Forensic testing showed faint traces of dirt and engine oil on the fabric, but no fingerprints. And just outside the fence, someone noticed muddy footprints, not adult-sized, but small, almost childlike. What made it stranger was that the prints faced toward the daycare, not away from it, as if the children had been walking back. Then there were the drawings, hundreds of them, recovered from the twins' art folders. What first seemed like innocent doodles took a dark turn when investigators noticed a pattern. In every picture, Aiden and Lily drew themselves playing with a tall, dark figure standing behind them. The figure had no face, only 3 glowing red dots where eyes and a mouth should have been. When questioned, One of the teachers remembered asking Lily who the red-faced man was, to which she softly replied, "He plays outside the fence when it rains." Most dismissed it as a child's imagination, but retired Detective Harlan Briggs didn't. He believed those drawings weren't fantasy. They were memories. By the time 3 long years had passed, the case of the missing Carter twins had turned cold. The search teams had long stopped, the posters had faded, and the news cycle had moved on. Only their mother, Emily Carter, kept the story alive. Her porch light still burned every night, a symbol of hope that her children might somehow find their way back home. Most people in Maple Ridge had learned not to talk about the daycare anymore. It was bad luck, they said. The old Little Steps daycare stood abandoned, its windows boarded, toys left scattered inside like a time capsule of that cursed morning. Even the grass around it refused to grow. Locals claimed they sometimes saw movement in the windows after dark, but no one ever went close enough to check. Then, one humid August afternoon in 2021, a construction crew working just 8 miles outside of town made a disturbing discovery. They were tearing down an old farmhouse that had been vacant for decades. The property belonged to a man who had died years earlier with no family or records. As the workers dug through the basement foundation, their shovels hit something solid. Beneath a layer of concrete, they uncovered a small wooden door, sealed shut with rusted nails. At first, they assumed it was some kind of storm shelter. But when they pried it open, a foul odor escaped, something old, earthy, and decayed. Inside was a hidden cellar that no one had known existed. When investigators arrived, they were met with something straight out of a nightmare. The walls were covered in childlike crayon drawings, dozens of them, all depicting the same faceless figure with 3 red dots. There were tiny handprints smeared across the paint, and along one shelf, agents found 2 pairs of children's shoes, still neatly placed side by side. Each shoe had a faded name tag, Aiden and Lily. What sent chills down their spines was that the shoes were clean, untouched by dirt or time, as if someone had recently placed them there. But no bodies were found, no remains. Just that eerie silence filling the underground space, and the faint sound of what one officer described as a child's giggle echoing from the dark corner of the cellar. 2 weeks after the cellar discovery, the FBI's forensics team began cataloging every object found inside. Among the rusted cans, broken toys, and old wooden furniture, Agent Lauren Pike noticed something unusual wedged behind a stack of decayed books, an unlabeled VHS tape coated in dust. It looked ancient, its tape partially warped from years underground. The team transferred it to a secure lab in Quantico for restoration, hoping it might contain clues about whoever had used the cellar. For days, technicians tried to recover the damaged footage. Then one evening, as the screen flickered to life, they realized they were looking inside the very same basement. But years earlier, the timestamp read June 14th, 2018, the day the twins vanished. The footage was grainy, the colors washed out, but the sound, it was unmistakable. Children laughing. Aiden's voice could be heard counting. 1, 2, 3, ready or not? Followed by Lily's giggle. The camera shook slightly, as if it was being held by someone standing in the corner. For about 30 seconds, the twins were visible, sitting on the floor, surrounded by crayons and stuffed animals. Then the latter stopped. Both children turned their heads sharply toward the same direction, toward the camera, their smiles fading. A faint hum began to build, deep and distorted, almost like radio interference. And then came the whisper. A low, guttural voice, barely human, murmured through the static, "We're not done playing yet." The tape suddenly cut to black, but not completely. In the darkness, 3 glowing red dots appeared, pulsing faintly in a triangular shape. Technicians froze the frame, trying to analyze it, but the lights moved, like blinking eyes watching from inside the screen. One expert described it as an artificial signal layered over the original video, though no source or reflection could explain it. Another chilling detail: the children's voices could be heard faintly in the background, even after the screen went dark. Whispering, humming, repeating a nursery rhyme no one could identify. When the playback ended, the room stayed silent. Agent Pike, visibly shaken, ordered the tape sealed as evidence. But later that night, one of the technicians swore he heard children laughing through the speakers again, even though the machine was turned off. Almost a year after the tape's discovery, Little Steps Daycare was purchased by a new owner, a young couple from Columbus who had no idea of its dark past. They planned to renovate and reopen it under a new name, Bright Meadows Learning Center, hoping to give the building a fresh start. But from the first week of construction, workers began noticing things that didn't make sense. Tools went missing overnight. Blueprints were found torn in half. One morning, the crew found all the lights turned on and every door unlocked, even though the power had been shut off the day before. Some workers laughed it off, calling it small town ghost stories, until one of them, a man named Rick Malone, stumbled upon something that froze him in his tracks. A small handprint pressed into the dust, covered mirror in the old playroom. The handprint was tiny, about the size of a 4-year-old's, and fresh. When investigators returned to inspect the property again, they discovered that the mirror wasn't attached to the wall at all. It was hiding something. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, barely large enough for a person to fit through. The air inside was cold, heavy, and carried a faint smell of wet soil and old paint. Flashlights swept across the cramped passage, revealing more crayon drawings covering the walls. Each one showed the same faceless figure with the 3 red dots, but this time the drawings were newer. The crayons hadn't faded. The wax was still soft to the touch, and in the corner of the crawl space, scribbled in a child's handwriting, were the words, "We're still playing. Don't tell Mommy." Forensics confirmed something terrifying. The wax used in those drawings was the exact same brand and batch used at Little Steps Daycare 3 years earlier. But that batch had been discontinued months before the disappearance. It was as if time itself inside that crawl space had frozen, preserving everything exactly as it was that morning the twins vanished. After that discovery, the owners abandoned the renovation overnight, leaving all their tools behind. The daycare was sealed permanently, but those who live near Willow Street say that when fog settles around the building, you can still see faint handprints appear on the windows. And if you listen closely, the sound of 2 small voices singing softly just before the lights inside flicker and die. To this day, no one knows what truly happened to Aiden and Lily Carter. Their case remains open. No arrests, no explanations, no answers. The cellar was sealed, the tape locked away in federal evidence, and Little Steps Daycare was left to rot behind police tape and overgrown grass. But locals still talk. Some say they've seen the twins standing by the old playground at dusk. Their faces pale, their clothes the same as the day they vanished. Others claim the red lights still appear in the windows right before a thunderstorm, glowing faintly, like eyes watching from another side. Emily Carter eventually moved away from Maple Ridge, but every year on June 14th, she drives back and leaves two stuffed animals at the front gate, a bear for Lily and a toy car for Aiden. She never stays long. She says the air around that place feels heavy, like it's holding its breath. And every time she turns to leave, she swears she hears it. Two small voices whispering in unison from somewhere inside the dark, boarded-up daycare. We're still playing Mommy. The screen fades to black. A soft hum fills the silence. And then, just before the video ends, 3 glowing red dots appear in the dark.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.